Hello, guys, and welcome to Tom's Drams. I'm Tom, and this is a Dram of the Week. So hello guys, welcome back once again to Tom's Drams. This is Dram of the Week. This is Tomatin 18. Tomatin 18 years. It has been finished in sherry casks. We don't exactly know how long, but usually it's 1 to 2 years. So we can assume it's like 16 years on ex-bourbon barrels and then 1 to 2 years on ex-sherry butts. So that is already a really good recipe for me for whiskey. Something that is finished in sherry cask, and especially something around 18 years old. For me, that's usually a sweet spot for whiskey, since that really gives it really characterful flavor, a lot of flavor, full-bodied, and this one definitely is that as well. Very full and very intense nose. First, I really want to talk a little bit about the Tomatin Distillery itself, because it's not really something that is, that I knew a lot about, the Tomatin Distillery itself. So I looked a little bit up about it. It had actually been established before the 1900s, I think 1896. It has actually been established for the first time, and then in 1986, it has actually been taken over by a Japanese conglomerate. So a lot of the Tomatin whiskey actually goes. I think the majority of the Tomatin whiskey actually goes into blends like J&B, Chivas Regal, Johnny Walker, those things. So Tomatin, actually, the majority of the whiskey that they produce actually are not their own single malts, but are those blends. The whiskeys that go into those blends, various blends. There might actually even be more, but I'm not really aware of those, but those are the most well-known ones. And then they have their own core range, which includes a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 18-year-old. Then they also have like a 30 and a 40-year-old. Those are really, really insane. But yeah, right now I have the 18-year-old. The distillery is actually based really close to Inverness, so it is a Highland malt. It is unpeated, which is pretty typical for that region, although it's not necessarily the case. So let's see what we got on the nose here. So this is a very intense, very full-bodied malt. This is very nice. 18 years old, that really gets out the complexity, and I really recommend letting this guy rest for a little bit. Usually they say, every year that it's in the cask, you should leave it a minute in the glass. Just to let it breathe and develop, because especially this one, develops, the longer you leave it in the glass. Don't leave it in the glass too long, but especially like 18 to 15 minutes, that definitely is worth it for this particular one, because it definitely decreases a little bit of the alcohol sharpness, because in the beginning, if you just poured this, there's quite a little bit of alcohol sharpness. Actually, it is not that crazy in strength. Let me actually take a look here. The Tomatin it's 46%, so it's definitely higher than your standard 40 or 43% whiskey. So it's 46%, which is still not crazy high, but definitely you get some alcohol burn from the first nosing from this one. But right now, I've let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes, and really, right now, there is no alcohol that I can smell at the moment at all. So right now, I get a lot of like a full honey note and cinnamon. Those are the two things that really jump out for me at the very beginning. Just a full cinnamon honey, a lot of vanilla as well. So these are really the typical notes that you would get from a Highland malt, but in this one it's much richer than the usual, for example, just other Highlands, younger Highlands. If you get the 18-year-old, it's much of the same, similar notes that you get, like the honey, vanilla, and stuff like that. And also with the sherry added, you get those sherry notes as well, the nuttiness, everything like that. But it's just, it's like someone turned up the volume. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a full, nice flavor that you just get from 18-year-old whiskeys that is just so distinct once you get to try one. For example, if you try the Highland Park 18, the Talisker 18, things like that has a lot of sherry influence, 18 years old, those all have those same richness. And I really love that. Also in this one, the Tomatin 18 is just so rich and nice and sweet. Really, really, really wonderful notes. All right, let's just give it a taste. Mm-hmm. All right, so in the beginning that you have this in your mouth, you really get a lot of that oaky impact. 18 years old is quite a long time to be on oak casks. So the first thing you get is really oak spices. A really nice oak spice, a little bit of bitterness in the beginning, but not an unpleasant bitterness, more like a coffee bitterness. If you had black coffee, if you really like black coffee, this is really your jam. You know, the first thing that you get is that nice dark coffee bitterness. And then, you know, after a while, it develops into coffee with cream almost, you know, like a nice soft creaminess. Like the bitterness just fades away in the finish in a really, really nice way. And then you also get that fruitiness with it. So just like dark cherries, red berries, a little bit of orange, maybe like a dark orange, like a I'm not sure how to, like orange jelly, you know, something like that. Yes, yes, and the nose just improves after the first sip as well. There's just even more of that cinnamon, even more, you know, of those spices that just, you know, jump out of the glass at you. Wow, this is really something enjoyable. Really. I mean, this is a quality malt for sure. I'm really happy this didn't end up in a blend, and that they make their own single malts, because this is quality stuff, guys. Hmm. Yeah, man. That. Oh yeah. Just the first time, if you have it in your mouth, black dark coffee, a bitterness not unpleasant. You know, very very enjoyable indeed. Very enjoyable. And now on the nose, I'm actually noticing also a little bit of a fresher side to it as well. That is really interesting for this one, because usually if you have a sherry finished, especially like an intensely sherry finished whiskey, you get a lot of dark notes, you know, like a lot of sherry, a lot of those sherry notes, dark berries, you know, dark fruits, stuff like that, like figs and stuff. And you definitely get that in this one as well. But there's also like a nice freshness to it. And you don't get that immediately, but this, yeah, it has a nice freshness. Yeah, so it has something of a minty, you know, quality to it, like a mint, like a lemon, like a very fresh lemon. I can't really find apples in the nose here, which is something that I often get from a Highland malt, but not really in this one. Not really getting apples. Yeah, it's more of that, you know, more of that cinnamon. That just still keeps jumping out, but combined with a really fresh lemon minty note. Very nice. And once you swallow it, yeah, I repeated it a couple of times already, but this is really an excellent dram, guys. So really recommend it, that you go and try this one, especially if you can get it in a sample. You know, try it for yourself. If you like that dark coffee flavor, then this is for you. If you don't like dark coffee and a little bit of, if you're kind of not a big fan of a little bit of bitterness, then this one is probably not for you. But again, that bitterness fades really quickly. The finish is nice and long. I'm still tasting a lot of those flavors. The bitterness, just like I said, fades away even after the second sip. It doesn't really stay in your mouth. It just turns a little bit creamy, fruity, nice, sweet. Um, Very nice. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tom's Drams, and I'll see you next time.